The New York Jets have been so bad in so many ways for so many years that it feels like you can find some new, unbelievably impossible to fathom statistic that they've managed to produce over the past 10, 15 years during this 14-year playoff drought. And we've got another one today, and we're going to explain how Aaron Glenn could be the key to fixing that. I'm Glenn Naughton with JetNation Radio and JetNation.com. Be sure to log into JetNation.com where you can register and become a part of what is the most active Jets message board on the web. So I talked about this the other day on JetNation Radio. I'm going to touch on it again today. The Jets safeties, the Jets safety room. Not a lot of experience there. Not really much in terms of established, proven talent. And it has been a very, very long time since the Jets had a safety, let alone a pair of safeties, who could consistently make plays on the football. And I get that guys like that are hard to find. But for the Jets, it has been, we always talk about how bad the Jets are at finding a quarterback. The Jets have been bad at finding most things for the past several years. Look, at the moment, they have a very good O-line. They had a really good pair of DBs till they let corners, till they let DJ Reed go. The running back room is good. This isn't to say they're devoid of talent. But when you look at things like tight end, where they've produced nothing for years, quarterback, obvious, we know about that. Using those high picks on Jamal Adams and Marcus May. Look, Adams turned out to be a nice box safety who could get to the quarterback as a blitzer, as an extra rusher, because he was explosive off the snap. Good, great first step and all that. Couldn't cover. Marcus May was solid. He was good. Probably a guy they should have kept around, but they didn't. So the guys they have had around in recent years, I took a look at their ball production, and we all know, listen, we're Jets fans. We watch this team. We understand they don't intercept the football. It's not something they've done for a very, very long time. Not with any degree of consistency anyway. Whereas Aaron Glenn comes in with this reputation as a guy who gets his DBs to make plays on the ball. And the Jets safety room right now, I think, has some solid young players who need development. I'm not saying these guys are ready to step in and intercept 7-8 passes next year. But I think these guys can be better than what people are expecting. I think Andre Cisco is going to be a breakout defensive player for them this year. I've talked about how I think Quincy Williams, I think there's a couple guys on this group, that at the end of the year, people are going to be saying, wow, I didn't think that guy was going to do that. I didn't think that guy was going to. Those are two of my top guys right now. As I look at this team and what Aaron Glenn has done in the past with his defense, I think Quincy's going to have a huge year. I think Andre Cisco is going to have a huge year. But there are other guys. There's Tony Adams, who, has been a nice story as an undrafted free agent, had a few interceptions his second season, only one last year, I believe. Malachi Moore, the rookie draft pick out of Alabama, where people are expecting big things. A lot of folks expect him to supplant Tony Adams as a starter. That would not surprise me one bit. And then you've got Jarius Monroe, a guy who late last preseason, when we did our 53-man roster predictions, he was probably the biggest dark horse on there. Didn't make it, stuck around with the practice squad, was added to the roster late in the season, so he did hang around. He did get some roster time, but he didn't make the 53 as I thought he might. Then you have Jalen Simpson, who was the late season addition, former draft pick by the Colts, who played corner and safety in college for Auburn. Liked him in college, liked him at the Senior Bowl. Jets picked him up, and he's hung around thus far. And then, of course, there's undrafted free agent Dean Clark out of Fresno State, who we have talked about a fair bit as a guy who I think his versatility is what gives him the best chance to play around, to stay around. He's played all over the place for Fresno State last year. So then you've got Aaron Glenn coming in, and he'll be the guy tasked with developing these players. And you look at some of the guys he has developed in the past at that position. You look at the Marcus Williams, the Brian Branch, the Kirby Joseph, who had, a million interceptions last year. And you look that Aaron Glenn has a history, whether it's as a DB coach, a defensive coordinator, the secondary coach with the Saints. He was the DB coach with New Orleans for a year. Then he moved to the secondary coach for a few years. Sorry, other way around. Secondary coach for a year, the DB coach for 4 years, and then he went on to be the Lions defensive coordinator, of course, as we all well know. Give us a follow, by the way, at JetNation Radio on Twitter. Give me a follow right there at JNRadio_Glenn. So I went and did some digging and thought, again, I'm well aware of the fact that the Jets don't intercept footballs. I just didn't realize how bad they were. I mean, there's so much misery and just all around malaise surrounding this team, this fan base. I don't know how the hell we hang in there all these years, but we do. And there's so much junk, so much bad info going in. Sometimes it leaks out. At least it does for me. And then you go back and you research something to have this conversation, and you go, God, were they that bad? Oh my God. Oh, and you're looking at year after year, and you're just going, God, if you would have asked me, I would have said the Jets stunk that year. Even I forgot how bad they were at many things. But the purpose of this conversation, just intercepting the football. How often did their safeties do it? How often did the defense do it as a whole? So we're going to look at the Jets from 2016 to 2024. Why those years? That's when Aaron Glenn stepped in New Orleans, and he coached between 2016 and 2024, split between the Saints and the Lions. How did his defensive backs do when he was the DB coach, the secondary coach, defensive coordinator, when he had a hand in getting those DBs ready to play on Sundays? How do they do versus the Jets? It ain't good. It ain't good at all for the Jets here. So let's have a look. So I've broken it down interceptions by safeties because that's kind of the focus here. I know we got to worry about the Jets corners and Sauce's inability to intercept passes, but this kind of goes part and parcel. Like Sauce is a good enough player that you hope adding Aaron Glenn, that's going to be a better part of his game where he can elevate. But the safeties, there's just so much unproven talent there that's where I feel like the focus will have to be in terms of developing these guys for the defensive staff. So the New York Jets, we'll go year by year. I'm going to tell you how many interceptions the safeties had, and I'm going to tell you how many interceptions they had as a team, and then we'll go over the total number in that time frame. What, 9 years? So 2016, Jet safeties had 2 interceptions. The the defense as a whole, had 8. 2017, the Jet safeties had 2 interceptions. The defense as a whole had 11. 2018, Jet safeties had 2 interceptions. The defense had 13 as a whole. 2019, Jet safeties had, take a guess, 2 interceptions. Defense had 12 as a whole. 2020, Jet safeties had 2 interceptions. Remarkably consistent. Remarkably. Defense had 10 as a whole. 2021, breakout year for the Jet safeties as they increased their interception production by 50%, jumping to 3 interceptions. 7 as a team. The team had 7. The whole entire football team, all of the defensive players put together, had 7 interceptions in 2021. 2022, if you thought 2021 was bad, check this out. Jet safeties had 1 interception as a team, as a unit, as a group. All 25, 26, 27, however many guys suited up and played defense that year. Everybody combined, 3 interceptions. 2023, by far, not even close, the best interception production for the Jets over this time frame. 10 interceptions by the safeties. If you recall, that was the year Jordan Whitehead, I believe, had 3 in the opener. And then he had 1 the rest of the way. And the rest of the DBs or defensive players chipped in for 6 more. So, sorry, safeties. Ashton Davis had 3, I believe. So that gave him 10. The safeties had 10 that year, having had 1 or 2 in 6 of the previous 7 seasons. As a unit, they intercepted 17. So 2023, not bad. Not bad. 2024, Jet safeties had 2 interceptions. The team, 4. So, I mean, that's 3 of the last 4 years. The Jets had fewer than 10 picks. I mean, twice they had fewer than 5. 2 of the last 3 years, the Jets had fewer than 5 interceptions on defense. I mean, again, this is a thing as a fan you're aware of because they stink and week in, week out. You almost forget that interceptions are a thing. When the Jets get a pick, I'm like, oh my God, forgot about those. They can happen. Unbelievable. I mean, talk about ineptitude. Blame scheme all you want, man. 3 interceptions as a team, 4 interceptions. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. Then we move over to Aaron Glenn, who apparently, when it comes to getting his defensive backs to intercept the football and his safeties to intercept the football, Aaron Glenn is some type of magician. He has superpowers that the Jets coaching staff is unaware of or has been unaware of for many, many years. His first year in New Orleans with the Saints DBs, safeties, four interceptions, 9 total as a team. Year 2 with the Saints, safeties intercepted 7 footballs. Defense intercepted 20 as a whole. Keeping in mind, Jets never surpassed 17 and only surpassed 12 once. They had 12 one time, they had 13 another, and then the year with their 17, that was their best. Aaron Glenn, second year as a coach in New Orleans, his defensive backs get 20 interceptions. Year 3, his safeties get 2, defense gets 11. Year 4, safeties get 6, defense gets 13. Remember, at this point, the Jets had still been at 2 per year. For the first 5 years of this, Jets safeties 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, and then 3, and then 1. And then after 10, they go back to 2. Unbelievable. Anyway, back to the Saints here. Year 4 for Aaron Glenn, 6 picks by the safeties, 13 total. His final year in New Orleans, 7 picks by the safeties, 18 total. His first year with the Lions, his worst year, or the lowest production his safeties had in terms of interceptions, 2, 11 total. Again, that's kind of Jets territory right there. The following year, safeties get 5, defense gets 12. The following year, safeties get 6, defense gets 16. And his final year, last year, in which Kirby Joseph was unbelievable, their safeties had 13, and the defense as a whole had 16. So what do those numbers total up to? And don't comment and tell me, you were off by 1 or 2. I could be off by 15 and the point still stands, and I'm not off by 15. Jets over that time frame, 26 interceptions by the safeties, 85 total by the defense. The Lions and Saints under Aaron Glenn during that time, literally double for the safeties. 52 interceptions for Aaron Glenn's safeties, while the Jets had 26. And the total number, Aaron Glenn's defense as a whole, 126 interceptions to the New York Jets, 85. There are, as I've said before, a lot of ways you expect a new head coach to impact the team. And specifically impact the team in their area of expertise. But while it more than looks. I do believe it's the case that Aaron Glenn is he's going to let his presence be felt on both sides of the ball, which I think we're all very happy about. But it's in the secondary. It's enforcing turnovers, where this team has failed so miserably in recent years that all we can do is hope that this is the coach who turns it around and gets some of these young players to make some meaningful plays in big spots, because it just doesn't happen often enough. So again, Andre Cisco, to me, big time breakout candidate. The other young guys, Moore, Adams, who myself, many others, I think the consensus is of those 3, 2 of the starters will be in there. But don't forget Monroe. Don't forget Simpson. If Aaron Glenn works his magic, some of these guys could go from being guys who no one really, who your more casual fans may not be familiar with, to being starting type players, or, high level backups who make plays, because it's been a very long while since the Jets have had that. By the way, real quick to throw out there, the interception numbers for the Jets safeties. Obviously for the college guys, it'll be their college numbers. For the guys who have played only a few years, like Andre Cisco, we'll look at his college and pro. Andre Cisco in college, 13 picks in 24 games. That's a really good number. Last year, this as a pro, 8 in 63 games, only one last year. However, having not gone back to watch every single snap of Jacksonville Jaguars defense last season, you do wonder if it's a matter of teams being more aware of Cisco, having picked off 7 passes combined over the previous 2 seasons. And last year, Jacksonville's secondary was ranked 32nd in the NFL. So again, based on Cisco's college production and his production in year 2 and 3 as a pro, like you have reason to believe he's going to be a 3 to 4 year, a guy who, if he picks off 3 to 4 footballs, you're not going to be surprised. If he has none or one, that's a little bit surprising. So again, with that scheme, all around talent, whatever the drop off was, but again, I think we see a big bump from him this year. Malachi Moore had 7 in 64 games at Alabama. Tony Adams had 6 in 42 games at Illinois, and he's got 4 in 41 games as a pro. Jarius Monroe had 3 in each of his 2 seasons at Tulane in 42 games, so that gave him 6 in 27 games. Jalen Simpson at Auburn, tough to call with, safety, corner. He played both, but in total, Jalen Simpson, 7 interceptions in 48 games. Dean Clark had 5 and 59 for Fresno State, but again, he is a guy I believe will be more of a chess piece if he makes the roster. I don't think he's going to be a guy who's being used a great deal to patrol the deep back half of the defense. So Aaron Glenn, folks, look, we love the hire. We love the impact he can have. I think this is an area where he can have the biggest impact. And again, it does apply to the corners. We do want to see, how great would it be to see Sauce Gardner come away with 4 or 5 interceptions this year? I mean, these years of 0 and 1, it's not going to cut it. And I'm not saying he's not great. He is a great player. I'm not dogging him like so many people did after last season. But there are things he can do better, intercepting the football being one of them. So we'll see what happens. We'll see how things roll with Aaron Glenn. But I think Jets fans who have grown tired of watching this defense go out week after week after week after week and not intercept the football, not force turnovers at a rate that most NFL teams can, and most NFL teams exceed. You hope you brought in the right guy to change that. And I think the Jets did. And it won't be very long before we start getting answers to these questions, because the season is fast approaching. We'll be covering all these DBs while they're covering receivers during the season, covering all the news stories that break between now and then. Check us out. As I said earlier, give us a follow at JetNation to follow the mothership, the flagship of the JetNation universe. Give me a follow at JN Radio Glenn and JetNation Radio at JetNation Radio on Twitter. That'll wrap this one up. We'll be back in a couple of days to cover some more player breakdowns and any news that takes place between now and then. Have a good one.